I mean, I don't care. You can just I can't believe like it doesn't let you do this horizontally. Oh no, that's not it. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so I want to talk about why I left Korean media because let me see, like I have another phone, a mobile phone to make sure I'm audible or audible. Is it audible or audible? Yeah, if you can hear me. I don't really do anything but live. And if okay, this is another phone. Oh shit. Okay, let me just at least like yeah. So condition is low. I don't do anything but live these days because I just I thought I lost passion and energy. Well, that's part of it too, but I like to say I like got wiser, right? Because you know, I don't really do shit like as an investment, you know. I don't really like have expectations when I do certain things. I used to have a lot of expectations, right? And you know, my life has taught me that that's not, you know, exactly the best way to live your life, you know. Like for example, like when you marry somebody, or not even like marry somebody, like you're not really loving somebody if you actually expect anything in return, right? You should just, you know, not expect anything in return, right? Whether that's your lover or your kid or, you know, work, right? Yeah, like when you work hard because you expect something in return, that's not, you're not really loving that work, you know what I mean? So I'm like on my way to master, you know, that art. But anyway, yeah. So like I'm recently, like a couple days ago, one of my colleagues asked me. She is a foreign teacher or native teacher in one of the, you know, hagwons, one of my hagwons. And she asked me, like, I didn't bring it up, but I was saying bye to her because it was my last day or whatever, you know. And then, you know, we kind of began talking about my past, and then, yeah. So, like, I told her that I come from media background, and she asked me if it was Korean or English, and I said mostly English. She asked me if it was arirang, and I'm like, yeah. That's where I started my career. I was a news reporter, and it's not like freelance news reporter. That's kind of big deal in Korea, right? Because like you don't really you audition. You know, of course, you have to audition to become a news reporter, even if it's freelance based. But to become like you know, the so-called like full-timer, you have to pass like rounds of exams, right? And it's like really competitive and stuff, right? But anyway, so like I started my career as a news reporter there. But then like I realized, so fuck it, like yeah, you know what, like this is gonna be kind of long, but hey, whatever. If you cannot take it, you can always pause and just go to some other dude, you know. But anyway, so like I was like 28 and I was approaching like 29, and basically like because the age is the most important thing. They don't care your college degree, they don't care about your whatever, right? Your skill set, you cannot be told. They are concerned that like they don't want to train you know, somebody like who's like 5 years, 3 years older than you. So especially at that level, at the entry level, age matters a lot. So basically, like the magic number was 29. So like, if you cannot find an entry level job by the time you become 29, you're kind of screwed. You're really screwed. Not kind of screwed. You're really screwed. I was 28 when I became a news reporter, and then like I left. I was like, fuck it, and I cannot stand this anymore, because, well, first of all, I was a little too naive. I was a little naive about the world, and back then I had a really big dream of like, contributing to the world, right? And that's one of the reasons why I left America and came back to Korea, because in the middle of like the whole like 9/11 thing, like it was impossible to get a job as a foreign student, but I did. I got a job at a law firm. It was an immigration law firm, and I mean, like, I'll be honest with you, like, it was also part of me too. I'm not really exactly like corporate material, so I'm not gonna deny that. But my boss was very, very notorious for extremely manipulative and very basically was a con artist, right? And I realized that, like, I realized how he was earning money. He would just go state to state. By the way, like a few years later, I learned that he actually was on a wanted list because he committed fraud. And I was like, oh, no wonder, right? So like, I realized that he was just, what he did was he would just go state to state and go to like the first thing he did every time he went to a new state was he would go to Korean church and he would just give out business cards, and he'll tell them, I'm gonna give you if you have any suit and illegal matters, come talk to me. I'm not gonna charge you a lot, and I can speak Korean or whatever. So that's something, that's a message that I would get like constantly over and over from the clients, because it was my job to collection for lawyering fee was one of my duties. And I was like, what, fuck it, this is not why, this is like against my value, right? So I left that golden opportunity to settle down in the US. Basically, I left my American dream because that wasn't like why I worked so hard for, right? Throughout my high school and my college, the States, right? Came back. I was like kind of for about 1.5 years, I was like teaching English. I was doing translation work so I could save up money to go back to America and finish up my plan to become a lawyer, right? Oh my god, this car is making a lot of noise, right? But whatever. Yeah, so the roads are really like bumpy. I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna do my best. Yeah, so I had this story where it's like my colleagues when I was news reporter there in Arirang. Not all of them, but most of them were there to marry up. Almost everyone was female. They were, you know, of course they had to be fluent because they were news reporting English. And at the time was when like you had to be really privileged, right? You have to come from like very privileged family to gain that fluency, right? So, but then it was like the pay wasn't great, not great. It was like shitty. It was like public servant level, right? I think it was like 1.4 million, which is like $1,000 back then. That was my starting salary. And for somebody who was so talented, why would you work for that kind of money, right? So like they were mostly it's like rich family princesses that were in the media to continue their Cinderella dream or princess. They want to remain princess, and that was like for them it was a golden opportunity to meet somebody and just be like, hey, I'm a broadcaster in English. And they knew guys would dig that, right? So, and then like that wasn't really the main reason, but bigger reason was that like even the news team director guy was saying like because it was like at the time there was a war, like a big war. I'm sorry, I'm driving now. I can't really think so hard. But yeah, so like, and even he was saying like, oh, so now this is going to decrease our audience even more because now our audience will tune into CNN because of this breaking news, right? So like even the team director, he was there just for his career, right? To make his resume look better, and those like few people who were very serious about the job, was very dedicated, had some like mental illness issues, right? And some like serious like narcissistic behaviors. I don't even like want to go into detail, but yeah. And because of them, like a lot of people left because they were like, what narcissists do, right? They would grill you if you're the weak. They play this crazy psychological game. Just so they, you'll find a lot of people like that in media because it's so biz, They're miserable, but inside, but the way they become happy, validation from the society, to prove to others that they're, they're better. Without that, they cannot be happy. So these people would do anything to make you miserable, especially when you're a newbie. Well, they'll find the reasons to attack you, make you feel like shit, and yeah. So I was like, fuck it. This is not why like I, came back to Korea, and yeah. So, but I was getting old. I was like becoming 29, and I was like, oh shit, now I really have to take risks. So what I did was I studied, like I was preparing for 7 rounds of exams for domestic, like Korean news media positions. thing is, at the time, I was told, I did research, right? Like I talked to everyone that I knew, possibly everyone that I knew, who could give me a, his or her opinion, and everyone was saying, right? Because they were saying based on the experiences, right? And the facts that no, at least I would make to the last round. Because why? Because my English. Again, this is like 25, I know, 23 years ago. Well, to make the long story short, I ended up not passing the first round for any of them. Now later, I learned from a professor who had empathy or sympathy for me, that it was the first year they started rejecting. They changed the domestic Korean news media, like, or Korean media in general, like they have realized that people would have this overseas background, right, couldn't fit in, and they didn't know how to like train us and stuff, because back then it was very primitive, like not very civilized the way the training was conducted. They would smack you, they would hit you with ashtray and shit like that, right? Yeah, and those of us who were, who studied abroad, graduated from American school, like didn't know how to take this, and but me personally, I knew what to expect, so I was ready. But then, hey, that's how you know you're not lucky. I still remember, like this colleague that I was talking to 2 days ago. She was saying like, oh, you know what? I heard like, they weren't interested in making money. They were going broke and blah blah blah. And I was like, you know what? They were saying exact same thing 22 years ago. So in other words, this is a systemic issue. So like, I want to talk about arirang, right? So like, arirang is a state-run company, which means it's non-profit, which means like people there work for government officials, politicians, and these government officials and politicians, they're not very up to date, and they're not really necessarily interested in like what would be the best for the nation, for the people. They're more concerned with how to like win votes and stuff, their immediate gain, right? So a lot of things like are very old, like outdated and shit, right? For example, like arirang itself, the name, this is what I learned from my training, during my training. They had to pay like millions and millions of dollars to come up with a name, as they like pay that amount of money to somebody who was like very popular, very famous Korean scholar. And arirang is such a like, it's nothing brilliant. It's like a common name, like it's like Joe, or it's like Stars and Stripes. There's nothing like brilliant about it. But somehow, you know how government works, right? The officials say, well, we had to find the best Korean scholar, so we had to pay this money. It's all like bureaucracy. It's all paperwork. It's all for the show, right? And also, but like, if you're okay with this, kind of bureaucratic ways of running things, you could last for a very long time, like in arirang. But me, no. Look, I told you how I was, I ended up there. It's just like, for me, it was like the biggest corruption scandal, right? But anyway, back to my colleagues' idea, which message, right? So like, the reason why arirang is not taking advantage of the whole like trend of K-pop, the culture, the pop culture of Korea, is because the people who work there don't give shit. You know, they don't care about audience. They don't care about the needs of people. They just care about what their superiors want, which is like, and a lot of times these decision makers, not a lot of times, like almost everyone, they don't know shit about like the media, and they don't even. And also, this is another thing. Government-run entities, they don't operate to make money. They operate to spend the money. And how you become like your skills, your value as a government employee, public servant, will be determined by how much your project has consumed the tax money. So next year, you'll get even more funding. Do you see what I'm saying? So they don't, it's all about how, for them, for the decision makers, for the producers, they all care for ways to convince the higher ups so that they could get more money, right? And this is why I was like one of the 3 at one point out of the entire 63 broadcasters, MCs, and reporters that were able to like get a job purely through a skill set. Everyone else, like 60 of them, were someone's friend. You know what I mean? So that's another issue. The quality of manpower suffers, right? And the quality of manpower for producers suffers too in this kind of environment, right? Yeah, so they're not exactly the smartest people, and they don't care about the audience. Basically, they want to show to the decision makers they're doing something valuable, and they're doing their best to like communicate with the audience and stuff, and try to like fulfill the needs, but once the decision makers believe that, these purposes are being served, that's it, In other words, if you're truly doing something that like actually serves the interest of Korea, of the people, of the audience, and you go unnoticed, then like you'll get cut, you'll get cut off, you'll lose your job. And I'd like to say that I was one of them, but that's not really for me to say, right? I like to be as objective as possible. So that's another thing, right? And this is why like arirang TV can like do so much better, like 1,000 times better, but they don't. They don't have any reasons to. And risk taking is really discouraged. You know that, right? In any government facilities, right? So anyway, yeah. So as of now, I'm like in between jobs. I already have been offered a job. I rejected 2 other jobs. That's just teaching job, you know. I'm done with the media, you know. I really gave my best, and once you have given your best, you don't really like look back because you know you have done that, you have given your best, and there's no reason to. And it's like, you know, it's like the first love, you know. I've tried everything, it didn't work out. You know, you don't have reason to look back, right? Yeah, so I thought I would just talk about this. Despite all this noise and stuff, I'm thinking of like teaching Korean, you know, because it seems like such a golden opportunity, and you know, probably like best time to do so. But I don't wanna teach Korean like, you know, a lot of people do, because it makes money, because it's going to bring like audience, because that's not fun, you know. Like, I already know too much shit, you know. I don't want to pretend, oh, it's all sunshine and rainbow and everyone's so happy in Korea, and you know, these people are jerks, and those like marginalized people are actually like always the heroes, and you know, I don't want to tell the lies just so I, you know, can profit, because that kind of lifestyle like always ends in misery, you know. To make money off like manipulating people, exploiting people. I'm not saying this because I'm a nice person, you know. I'm saying this because I want to be happy, and I know those things will ruin your life. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna. I have some ideas, but we'll see. Maybe I can talk about Korean news, but I don't want to be too serious. You know what I mean? Anyway, yeah. So I think this would be it. Maybe I can teach slangs too. Maybe. We'll see.